I never know how to start these things. I usually take a drink and look in the camera and say, "Hey, fellas," but I'm pretty tired, so hey, fellas. It is Saturday, July 14th, 2018, and yesterday I got the B17 primed. I have it all put together. Well, most of it. I mean, there are other parts that aren't going to get painted, that are already painted, that aren't on it, but I got it on its stand, and I made a stand yesterday. I came up with an idea and just kind of sent a rough picture of my idea to the owner because he wanted it in flight, and it was actually pretty easy to do for the stand, and I'll show it to you in a minute. But this is one of those stages where I get to see the entire model put together, and it becomes a blank canvas for painting, and it's exciting for me. Yay, I'm excited to see it this way, because then and when I'm building it, I have an idea what I want it to look like in my head. But when I get it all primed, it's like I said, like a blank canvas, and I really get to envision how I want to paint it, and what I want to do with it as far as putting color on it. So rather than me rambling, let's look at it, and I will give a kit review of the HK Models 1/32 scale B17F. There it is, folks. To give you an idea of the size, I've got a 1/48 scale F16 behind it, and you know, it is a big plane, but with the stand, I mean, the stand that I built, there's a little bit of an option to save a little bit of room, and having stored models myself, it always helps if you can like tilt it and rotate it. With the stand let's go over the stand first, get that out of the way. Now, the owner wanted this in flight, and I sent him a rough picture of an idea that I had. I didn't want to put a rod through the fuselage. I would have probably had to put two because it's such a big, heavy plane. And with all the detail that I had on the inside, there really wasn't a good option other than maybe closing up the bomb bay and running a rod through there and building some kind of internal post in there to keep it from moving around. But he wanted the bomb bay open, so I came up with this idea. And basically, I took acrylic tubing. I think this is a 1/4 inch, maybe. I'm not sure. Nice and sturdy and thick. And then I took a little bit smaller tubing, and I used a heat gun, and I bent these with a heat gun. And then basically took a Dremel tool and kind of made a divot where these would sit in, and then I cemented them in with plastic weld, and it seems to be pretty solid. I don't think, to me, extra thin. It works with acrylic, but the Plastruct seems to melt it a little bit, so then they join up. So yeah, it's pretty solid, and the plane just fits in that cradle. You know, obviously you're not going to be able to turn it unless you move the base, but it does give you the option of tilting it, and I still need to do a little bit of refining with it. I may lower this back one just a little bit, just to give it a little more dynamic look. But that turned out better than I expected. So let's get on with the plane. The exterior, the rivet detail on this kit, or the exterior detail, is just outstanding. And you can kind of get an idea. The panel lines are really fine. All the rivet details are really fine. And there's just a ton of it. We'll look at the bottom. Just a ton of detail. The only issue with the exterior detail was the rivets and panel lines faded out into where the fuselage halves join. But since you're going to be sanding that area anyway, it's not that big of an issue. So, I mean, you're going to have to do some rescribing and re-riveting anyway. Like I did there. Okay. The fuselage comes in 4 parts. You've got the main part here, where all the internal parts go, the cockpit and the bomb bay and all that stuff fits in there, and those things fit in there pretty well. Excuse me. You just have to take your time putting them in, make sure everything's aligned whenever you glue it. Then you've got the bombardier's compartment, which is a separate piece that fits on. And there was a big seam line right here where it fit. No matter how hard I worked, I couldn't get it to join up perfectly. So I ended up sanding it away and filling it with super glue. And then I had to rescribe and re-rivet along there. The top piece was a little bit fiddly, this top section. I ended up, the best option was installing the glass first, then putting it in there, and I don't know if there was something just a little bit off. I think when you get all those internal parts in there and you've got such a long fuselage, something inevitably is gonna be off just a little bit. So I kind of had to fudge a little bit. So what I did is when I got the window glass glued in, then I started at the rear and I got that down and aligned because it comes up right here and this panel line's supposed to be there. I may have to fill that in just a little bit. But this section right here is all one piece along the top. So I aligned that and I glued it, then went along and glued and glued and glued and let it dry. And then finally I got up to the front and I had to fudge just a little bit and I had to fill in right here was the only spot. And but other than that, I mean, it's all aligned, it looks good. So you can't really tell where I had to fudge. See that? Yeah, my shadow's getting in the way. But yeah, that wasn't too big of a pain. The rear gunner's position, same thing with the front. I had to sand and rescribe just a little bit. It's not perfect, but it is what it is. Where the wing roots are, because the wings are removable, this left wing here was sticking up just a little bit, so I went in on the inside of the wing. I had to file away some material on the top portion of that system that they got in there, and I was able to get it to where it was flush, but I still have a little bit of a gap right there. I'm afraid to go in there and do any more work and try to get that out of there. I don't know even if it's possible, because it fits on there so tightly. I hate to mess with that, the inner workings of this wing root, for fear that the wing's not going to fit on there correctly. So we're just going to have to live with that. I think once you get it painted, you're not going to notice it anyway. The other one's pretty good. The horizontal stabilizers, they fit pretty well. I don't have that pushed in all the way. It goes in a little bit better. But these come off. The flaps back here came off because I was playing with it earlier. They just fit in. I'm not going to glue them. They're engineered really well so they can just plug in. I'm going to paint those separately because those are fabric, and I'm going to do a different shade. But those fit in and there's no glue required. Same with the ailerons. They just snap into place, so I'm not going to glue those in. And the rudder's the same way. They just snap in there. Really well engineered plane. Let's see. Along the engines, I think was probably the worst fit. There was a big gap on each one of these that I had to fill and sand and fill and sand and see over here. But I got it the best I could. And then I had to re-rivet. The camera's gonna pick it up, but I re-riveted all these rivets along here. The interior, if you watched any of my other videos, you got an idea what the interior looks like and how it goes together. There was a ton of detail in the interior that I put in. The kit detail is pretty good, but if you're going to open up, you know, you don't see a whole lot of it when you close it up. I mean, if you shine a light in there, you'll be able to see it. But if you're gonna, you know, one idea that I had if I did this one in the future for myself would be to cut sections out of the plastic, almost like a hole, just so you could see inside. And then you could see all the detail on the inside. But if you're going to do that, you really want to buy some aftermarket parts. I used a lot of photo etch, some resin stuff in there that the owner had sent me. Don't really think it's necessary if you're going to close it up, but for this model, it's in there and it looks good. You're just not going to be able to see much of it now that I've got it closed up. But overall, really good kit. I'm satisfied with how it all went together. And like I said before, it's a little more refined than the B25 kit that I did. So that is it. I'm going to probably start painting today. Got a few ideas. I'm not going to do a lot of chipping like I did on the B25. I'm probably just going to do some hairspray chipping along the leading edges of the wings. This is going to be black right here and black right there. But the rest of it, I'm going to do just a little bit of hairspray chipping, not much. No, I'm not going to overdo it. And then along the front of the engine cowls. And that's all the hairspray chipping that I'm going to do. But I'm going to give it a nice faded and blotchy olive drab paint on the top. And just a little bit of chipping. So that's where we're at, and I'm going to start painting, and I'm going to put together a video on how I paint it, and I will see you on the next one.